Hey everyone, this week for Not On Your Rider Plus Ones, we're joined by the incredible singer-songwriter Conrad Sewell, who I genuinely rate as one of the best in the country. He's a fantastic storyteller too, and he's lived such a life. So we've got some really good stories here and some really good insight into the music industry, which perhaps if you're thinking about getting into the industry yourself or just want a bit of light around how some things work, I think this chat will be really illuminating for you. If you listen really carefully, you can hear my dog Sir whining the whole time trying to get in. There he goes. Yeah, if you listen very carefully, you can hear my little puppy dog Sir trying to get in because he's missing out on, he's just needy, isn't he? Get down. Conrad's going to be touring around the country for the next couple of months with doing his own shows and with Big Time Rush, I believe they're called. So check out his socials and website for all the details there. You got to see him live. He's a fantastic singer. And of course, if you're in Melbourne, we're going to be down there on October the 3rd at Brunswick Ballroom with an amazing panel of Will Anderson. We've got Ray O'Leary all day, Hayley Mary, Gillian Cosgriff, and Fast Fingers Fred from Northeast Party House too. So hopefully see you there. But yeah, enjoy this chat with Conrad Sewell. I really enjoyed it, and I think there's a lot of gold in there, honestly. And we'll hopefully see you at a live show soon. Yeah, just some like little things that I picked up the other night that I wanted to delve into a little bit further.
Yeah.
Welcome to Plus Ones here at Not On Your Rider. It's a little show that we only get to do every so often. When we've got a very special guest, we want to delve in a little bit further into their life and hear about the wild world of the music industry. This week, we're very blessed to be joined by one of the best pop singer-songwriters in the country for my bloody money. It's Conrad Sewell. Thanks for joining us, Conrad.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate that.
You were very gracious to be a guest on Not. I almost said you're very lucky to be a guest on Not. Pull your finger out.
Extremely privileged.
Yeah, fucking hell.
That was a fun night, though.
It was a great night.
It was. I didn't know what to expect, but
yeah,
it was just fun.
That's kind of one of my joys in it is not telling people what it's going to be like and trying to surprise them. Although it makes it hard to get people on because no one wants to do it because it doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, I don't know how it all ended up coming together, but I was glad, and it was like a good crew on the panel as well.
It was an amazing crew.
Like I didn't think that you had any. I didn't think there was like any other names or something like any other names that I would recognize in the thing I did because I didn't know too much about it. But obviously, I knew everybody on the panel, and it was it's a good laugh, and everyone was super nice, and yeah.
I'm always blown away by how nice people are when they come on the show. There's very rarely any dickheads. I don't think there's been any dickheads.
Yeah.
But anyway, so before the show, I do a lot of research on the guests, and I try to go through lots of podcasts and figure out a lot about their life and get lots of stories. And I was doing that on you, and I found there were so many like threads of amazing things that you've done. Like your career's been all over the place. Like you've done so much, but there wasn't really any kind of places that dug deep into that or like long form interviews that really explored that. And I thought you were a really good communicator. I think you're very personable, and like I was surprised that you hadn't done more podcasts.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've done so much like radio crap, which is such like just quick, like you don't get to really tell that much of your story anyway, and it's just like little glitches of things. And I mean, I've ever since the podcasts have become like a thing in the last few years, I've been sort of dying to sit down with someone and also just sort of share, my story, and not just be about playing some silly game on a radio show.
It's for sure. There is a lot of those clips out there too. Well, I guess that's an interesting place to start because you've had an interesting career where you kind of blew up in the mainstream. Have you found that these traditional forms of media have become less useful to you as things change? Like, do you rely on them less?
I mean, it's hard. I think, especially being an Australian artist, it's like when you first come out, you sort of, as you sort of get put in two boxes. It's either you're a Triple J artist or you're straight to mainstream pop radio. And when I first came out of Firestone with Kygo was very much a cool song. Radio 1 were playing it. We were doing all the, we were playing Coachella. You would think it would go straight to Triple J, but because it was so big immediately, it went straight to Nova, and then so when my song followed it, Start Again, that I went straight to Nova as well, and sort of skipped the Triple J platform. And in a lot of ways, that's not great for an artist like me who does want to, does rely heavily on performing live and stuff like that. So you sort of miss those early fans of like the guys that just want to go and see concerts. Do you know what I mean? And I think that if things would have, if that wouldn't have happened and then Triple J would have been playing the song, then I probably would have sort of entered the market in a different way, and it may have taken longer. But at the same time, it's like, it is what it is, and it's great. I got the support of the mainstream early on, and that sort of, but then it's harder to maintain that, because then it's like you're only as good as your last song, you're only as good as your last radio hit, because the people that are listening to Nova and B105 and everything like that, and the mainstream stations, it's like they're only going to remember you if they hear you every couple of months. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And unfortunately in Australia, they don't let that many Aussie artists have it. It's like you get a hit every couple of years. They'll allow a few on the radio, but it's a very hard. Like radio is just tough at the moment. You know what I mean? It's very hard for the majors to break any like local acts on radio, I think, at the moment. So I don't know. I think there's definitely benefits to each side, but
so mainstream audiences consume music differently.
I think so. I mean, they're being told what to listen to, aren't they? You know what I mean? Like the stations are playing the same songs over and over again, and unless you are signed out of the US or you're a big priority on that label, then they'll try and break a few songs, but then if it doesn't work, it's almost like you're just putting music out to service the beast. And it feels a little bit like that at the moment. It just feels like everybody's just putting out music, and everyone's consuming it, and the few names, the handful of names that everybody in the world knows, get guaranteed radio play. But outside of that, it's like the song is going to be absolute standout for it to really break through that noise.
And whose kind of choice was that? Was that the labels?
It was. I think Tony Harlow was running Warner at the time, and I was signed to Leo Cohen and 300 Entertainment out of the US, and Leo obviously is the head of YouTube Music now, and was big power player in the industry and always has been. And so their label went through the Warner Brothers imprint, and I think Warner did actually a really good job with that, with my first EP and the way it came out, and and it was run. But like I said, because the songs were already getting traction on mainstream radio, it was almost like, usually Triple J is sort of like you use that as a stepping stone to get eventually mainstream radio. But that initial, I guess, credibility, that like a station like Triple J could give you is important for an artist building. Like Amy Shark and people like that, they had that sort of coming out the gate, I think. And then it was like, okay, well, how do we cross her over to Nova now? And it's a funny way how it all happens, but. So I guess it's the labels, but it's also, I guess it comes down to the stations. Do you know what I mean? They attach themselves to it, and it's like, okay, cool. He's either this will work or not.
Well, you had your first number one song from that EP too. Is that right?
Yeah. So that Start Again was sort of like the song. Like I wrote Start Again before I wrote Firestone. Like that song. I wrote, and I didn't have a record deal. I didn't have anything, and I was in well, pretty much we went into the Rock Nation office. I was living in LA, and we were living on people's couches and just sort of trying to make things happen, writing songs every day. And I was in a band before that. We were signed to Universal Germany, and then the band sort of started to fizzle, and I knew that Universal Germany weren't going to put any more money behind it. So I was like, all right, well, I got to go try and write us a song. So they'll either invest more money or, we can get a deal somewhere else. So we're living in LA, and I wrote this song, Start Again, and we were at the Rock Nation office seeing a guy named Joe Lieberberg, who actually managed like the Haim girls at the time. And anyway, somehow I got a meeting with him, and we went into the office, and we were sitting there, and I'm a big Kanye West fan, so I was like, I wonder if Jay Brown's in the building, and because the Kanye song. Then I went and told Jay Brown. Should have known that was going to come back around. And anyway, we're in the office. Me, Matt, my friend, and Joe. And he started playing songs, and then he got to start again and he played it, and this guy comes into the room and he's like, "Oh, what's that song?" And just sort of like interrupts and walks in, and he's like, "Oh, these kids wrote it," and he's like, "Oh, play it again," and leaves the office, and then comes back in like about a minute into the song again, and he's like, "Who wrote it? You wrote it?" And he's like, "All right." He's like, "Cool, yeah, play it again," and leaves again. I'm like, who is this guy that just keeps interrupting our meeting? Like, it's and the song. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Anyway, comes in a fourth time, and says, "Play it again. Turn it up really loud so I can hear it in the office better." And I'm like, "Man, so he's obviously somebody." And Joe says, "You know who that is, right?" And I said, "No." And he said, "It's Jay Brown." And I was like, "Oh wow." And then he comes back in and he brings Kylie Minogue in, and they were like, "Would you mind if she sung the song? Like, could she have the song?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, if we could see if she, see what she sounds like on it." But it was that at that moment I got home. By the time I got home, there was they had sent an email to my manager and everything like that, and they were, Jay's I think quite known for sort of hearing a great song and just grabbing it. You know what I mean? He's got amazing ears. And anyway, that sort of started this little buzz, and then I was, before you know it, I was starting to get offers from different labels, and then I met Leo, and he flew me out to New York, and he had just he ran Warner Brothers for a long time, obviously, and then set up this new label 300, and like nobody really knew too much about it, but he sort of flew me out, and it just I really believed in him, and he seemed to believe in me, so I did the deal with him, and then that song, before that song could come out, that was sort of like the song that everyone was excited about. I wrote the song Firestone, and 300 was trying to sign Kygo, and they didn't end up signing Kygo. Sony did, but they flew to Norway, and when they met Kygo, they played him a bunch of demos, and they played him Firestone, and then that. So
that was
the first
based
song.
off a demo of yours. So
yeah,
it wasn't you singing over like an instrumental that he'd written.
No. So I wrote the song in Venice with my friend Tinas, who's awesome musician out of from Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And we were writing just a bunch of songs for my record. Like I was already signed to 300. I had Austin Rosen and Electric Feel were managing me, who managed Post Malone, and have done really well since. So we were sort of just working on my record, and then the Kygo thing happened. And Kygo never put out a original song yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just all of his remixes that he had on SoundCloud. They were like getting millions of streams. So every label sort of like picked up on it, and it was like he was just like the cool, tropical house kid at the time. And it was like, wow, if he puts out something original, imagine what it could do.
Yeah.
So it was just like when the song, we said I could I show you the demo. It's just like a string pad and piano and my voice, and like a ballad.
Yeah.
And then we sent him that, and he did he turned it into the production that it is now. But yeah, the song was written.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, that's interesting, because I guess I pictured you guys working together, or like with these kind of dance music collaborations, they seem to start with the music and then put the lyrics on top.
Not really.
Not really?
No, not from my experience. I mean, sometimes if you're lucky enough, you get to, you're in the room and you're creating together. And I think now, I'm sure Kygo does that a lot now. But in the early days, it was a lot of just like pretty much just sending, very bare idea, just like a vocal and a piano, or a vocal and a guitar. But the melody and the lyric is done, because I think a lot of DJs, anyway, in the past have not really needed to, get involved in that side. Do you know what I mean? And they're sort of more on the production side. So yeah, most of my collaborations have been, the song was, an idea that I was either for me or whatever, and I'd written it already, and then we just sort of pitch them out to certain DJs.
Okay.
But me and Kygo went back and forth on the production and stuff like that. Like, it was crazy, man. And when I heard that song, I think I turned it off halfway through. I didn't even think it was like...
Really?
Because I just didn't... to me, it was just... I'm not a big dance person. Like, I grew up listening to like soul music, and it was just like, whatever. It's just another dance song, you know what I mean? But I was so wrong.
Yeah. Well, is it fair to say that song changed your life?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it changed my life in many good ways, but it was also hard because, there's a lot of opportunity that could have come from that song that didn't end up happening. You know what I mean? Like for example, the video clip, you know, I remember the song came out, it started doing well, and both labels are like, all right, well, we need a video. So we fly down to Miami, we rent the house from Bad Boys 2, and we're in the house and we're about to shoot this video for this song that's, you know, starting to be one of the most streamed songs in the world. And something happened like with Kygo's management and Leo, and they kind of got into it. And I think they just I think Kygo's team didn't really want me in the video. Like they were just, I guess they was just like, what, we don't, you know, we have a different vision. So we're on set of this thingy and it just comes to a halt. Like, and Kygo's manager was just like, nah, everyone can go home. We're going to do a different idea.
Okay.
And Leo was like, what? Are you kidding me? We're all here. The cameras are set. Like, are you kidding me? And I don't think anyone had ever seen, it was just like dead quiet. The whole house, the whole crew there's like 50 people there. And, you know, Leo's a bit of a gangster, so everyone was like scared shitless of him. And this young manager who was managing Kygo, you know, was just like, nah, yeah, you heard me right. Shoot's over. Everyone go home. And Leo was just like, all right, everybody get your shit. Let's get out of here. And little things like that, you know what I mean? So there's a video that, you know, then goes on to be viewed by the world, you know, millions and millions and millions, billions of times, and my face isn't in it. So, you know, and then we have we're about to have a top 10 in the US, and we book Ellen, and you know, they decide to jump straight to the second single when this first single's about to go top 10. Yeah. So I don't do the Ellen performance there. They do the second single instead. And like, so just little things like that didn't align. Meanwhile, I'm still supporting the song and flying around the world and supporting it and stuff like that a lot. So, and I'm not like blaming anyone, but it's just like, it's funny, like a song that you should have been able to pivot off and then your next song get, you know, a lot of international attention as well. Yeah. And we knew we had this song Start Again, which was a great song that we, you know, could have pivoted to, and we did. The only country where it pivoted to and it worked was Australia, because Australia had sort of started the groundswell, and so when it came out, it went straight to number one.
Groundswell.
So yeah, exactly. And so yeah, it was. And then I got the iHeart on the Verge thing in the US, which, you know, Shawn Mendes has had before, Camila Cabello, all these people. It's guaranteed airplay, and you get to, you know, you play all the jingle balls and all that stuff. And we have a song in Australia that's gone to number one, but they were playing this other song called Hold Me Up, which was because they said they needed an up-tempo song for the summer. And Hold Me Up had already come out in Australia and sort of fell on deaf ears. So it was like, I remember Leo like calling John Ivey and like Tom Pullman at iHeart and being like begging them to take the song off the radio and just switch it out for Start Again, because Start Again was proving itself to be a hit in Australia. Like, had knocked Taylor Swift off the number one spot or something like that.
Yeah,
and
no.
Meanwhile, they're plugging away this song that's, you know, hasn't worked. So a few things I didn't align, and, you know, you just keep going. You know, there's so many amazing things that happen, but to answer your question, 100% changed my life, bought me my house, you know, but, you know, put me on the biggest stages in the world, and ultimately so grateful for it, and really would like another one.
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
But yeah, it's a love and hate situation.
Yeah, I can imagine. Did you feel like the reason they kind of pivoted away from supporting the single and stuff like that, did you think that was a personal thing? Like they were trying to brand Kygo as the artist more than you?
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense. It was at first like, you put me in the video and I'm singing it.
It's your song.
It's, you know, it's, well, who's Kygo? Is it the guy behind the DJ booth, or is it the guy singing it? And because it is a very emotional song, so I mean, ultimately, you know, kudos to his manager. He's a smart kid. Like he knew what he was, you know, he obviously knew what he was doing. He was protecting his artist, and he wanted to make sure that all eyes and attention was on Kygo, and it sure was. And they've been very good at doing that and continuing to do that. You know what I mean? And I think after a while, and after supporting the record and supporting them, you know, performing wherever they wanted me to perform and doing it, that started to affect me a little bit. Just like, I remember getting off stage in Ibiza or something like that, and you know, I'd done so many gigs playing that song, and when I sing, I pull my heart out, and I remember getting off stage and us both walking back through the crowd, and everybody like taking pictures with him, and like, and I could have been the bloody janitor. Do you know what I mean? Walking back, like it was like, it was a bit like, oh, fuck this, man. What's the point? You know what I mean? Like,
especially since you wrote the song by
yeah,
yourself
so
too,
definitely,
yeah.
there's definitely like a little bit of like butthurt about it, but
Yeah.
it also, like I said, it was what it was, and it's just like a lot of the times that happens, and I think that's why I almost sort of started to just be like, okay, cool, I'm going to focus on my solo stuff and just like, you know, continue to put out songs that I think are great and just focus on that, because I went on and I did a bunch of other DJ songs as well with amazing, you know, with Avicii, with Armin van Buuren, with Artie, heaps of DJs, and it's just, you know, that it's great and people love it, but I don't think it's great if you're trying to break yourself as a solo artist. You know what I mean? Like it needs to be about your sound, what you're doing, you know, what you're trying to build, your brand.
Did you carry any of that with you when you were touring around doing these giant shows with Kygo?
Oh yeah.
So like, yeah,
that's probably why I started drinking so much.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like, I mean, the problem is with my thing. I've always felt this like need, like this not good enough thing, or this imposter syndrome, or something like that. Even though I've also been, you know, when I'm on stage, you wouldn't think that, because I come across very, you know, I'm very comfortable up there, and I am comfortable, the most comfortable when I'm on a stage performing. I feel very comfortable in my ability to sing, but I think the way things panned out sort of fed into that insecurity of me being like, oh yeah, see, everything had an excuse, you know, like, oh well, yeah, I've got a number one song around the world now, but it's not my song, it's Kygo's song, and like that's why they like it, and then everything else was just like, oh, you know, Starting number one, but it's, you know, it would only be number one for a week because it's just, you know, I'm an Australian artist, and it's like, oh, I only won Song of the Year at the Arias because, you know, it's political. Somebody flew down and like, you know, they just needed me to get that so they could have a bit of credit. Like literally could find an answer and everything as to why it happened, instead of just embracing it and being like, hey, well done, man. You know what I mean? Which I've had to work on, but.
Do you think that's an Australian thing?
Yep. I don't.
Because we've all got this tall poppy syndrome.
Oh, I think tall poppy syndrome is 100% a real thing. And and I've, you know, felt that, you know, for years. And that's the reason why I left the country in the first place, because I felt like, I remember when the Veronicas first came out, I remember it felt very big straight away when they first came out. And it was because they were signed to, David Sonnenberg was managing, huge label deal.
Max Martin.
Max Martin on the first two singles. And I was like, who did that? And that's where I started. I called, somehow I met the girls and they introduced me to my publisher, Hayden Bell. And he was sort of very influential in their early days of their career, and, you know, helped them get the deal and got them in with Max Martin and everything like that. And I called him, I think I was about 17 or 18, and was like, can I send you some songs? And I sent him some songs. And next thing you know, I'm on a plane to Sweden and I'm learning how to write songs every day. And it was very much like, because I felt that the route they had went, when it came out, it felt international immediately. It felt like, oh, this is the real deal. This is important all over the world. So I wanted to come in it the same way, and he helped facilitate a lot of that in the early days.
Well, let's go all the way back to the start, because it's insane that someone from Brisbane would be doing these sorts of things, moving to LA, doing these huge shows, getting in front of, you know, Jay Brown in the first place is amazing. Did you get your start on Idol? Did I see that?
Yeah, so it all started when that probably led into my insecurities as well. It started,
yeah, probably,
as everybody else, when Idol first came out. So I keep tapping my foot. You know, comes out. It's immediately the biggest thing on planet Earth, and it looks like, wow, you know, this is the way to make it. You know what I mean? This could be huge. So I was 16. I think I knew like 2 songs all the way through. I was nowhere near ready to do anything, but just as you do when you're young and you think that, you know, your mum and whoever else has been telling you that you're a good singer, you should do that. I went on the show and I was super young, and I was only 16, and I remember I remember you audition for the producers first, and then if you get through, you go through the judges. And when I went to the producers, I wasn't sick or anything. I was, you know, in good health, and I sang, and probably still didn't sound great, but I got through and got to see the judges. And then it's like 3-4 days before you see the judges or something. And in those 3-4 days, I came down and I was like really sick, you know, like antibiotic, like just chesty cold, like literally 50% of my ability kind of taken away from me as to a vocalist.
Yeah.
And and already not great vocalist. And anyway, went to thingy, went on the show, and at that point I'm like, this is my shot. This is my one and only shot to be a singer. I'm 16. This is it. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the way my mind thinks with a lot of things. You know what I mean? It's like it's all or nothing. And anyway, went on the show, cracked up on this note, and I remember having like Marsha and Mark and Dicko and all them just being like, Marsha in particular being like, "What's wrong, baby? What's wrong?" I mean, it's like just kind of like bringing it out of me, and the emotions just building, and I'm just like, you know, I think I shed a tear or two, and like just was like, oh, I don't know, I just know I've stuffed it up, and you know, it wasn't meant to be or whatever. Anyway, come out and I'm upset. You know, give my mum a hug and think it's over, and then the producers come running up to us as we're like leaving the venue. They're like, "Oh, we know you went well. We heard you the other day. We want to fly you down to Sydney and want you to audition again." So we do that, and went down to Sydney. And then while I'm doing the show, it's like I could sort of tell that they're sort of like trying to build this little like story, you know, this little side story as they do on those types of shows.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't end up, rightfully so. I make it to like almost like just before the top 40 or something like that, but not to the live stages or, you know, when it would really matter and where it could, I think it starts to sort of, people start to remember you. But sure enough, when the show came out, it was I was like the first advert, and it was like my face in tears. And
great
like,
for school, hey.
I'm 16 and I have to go to an all-boys school on Monday morning and face 1,500 boys that are about to just rip me a new one. And I think I stayed up all night just thinking like, how am I gonna, you know? And like I wasn't an unpopular kid at school at the time, you know. I was very much one of the popular kids. So my world was about to crumble because everybody was about to have leverage on me.
Yeah, and
it went on for like 3 years, mate. I couldn't go out in Brisbane without somebody starting to fight with me or something like that. It was insane, and it definitely left some scars, and definitely put this chip on my shoulder that was like, well, you know what, I am going to make it now, because I was just ridiculed for 2 years straight. Do you know what I mean? Afterwards, just bullshit, like high school, you know, teasing, but you know, people would try and start fights with me at parties and shit like that. And like, anyway, so the Idol thing was something that was such a like nothing blip in my career that only left a scar.
Yeah.
That I literally never talk about it. I never like went into, and thank God it never really like became a part of my story. It's like they mention it just like, oh yeah, you were on Idol, but that's the truth behind that story. And that's why I don't like delve into it, because it was like I was only on it for like 2 days and never even like went further in the competition. But what it did give me was, you know, years of bloody bullshit.
Yeah.
So at a time where, you know, obviously high school is not, you know, can be cruel for some people. So
for sure.
You know, after that, I sort of stopped singing like for a year or so, like, because I was just like, I was just, you know, graduating high school and just didn't feel good about it. I was still doing singing lessons at the Conservatorium of Music and like learning how to, you know, sing as I'd done since I was 13. But anyway, after that, at 18, graduated school and was going to do a degree of music at the Conservatorium, and then. But I'd reached out to Hayden Bell, and I'd started to sort of put feelers out in the industry, and like that's sort of way my mind went straight away. It was like, how can I get to the biggest people that ever come out of Australia? Like, who were the biggest people that came out of Brisbane at the time? And it was Savage Garden and the Veronicas. So, and funnily enough, Hayden was involved in both of their careers. So I was like, all right, I got to get this Hayden Bell guy.
Yeah.
So tracked him down, sent him a few demos that I had recorded. Of songs that I'd written, and he said, listen, I don't hear a song, but I hear a tone in your voice, and it's got like a signature to it. Like there could be something there. Like if you can get yourself to Sweden, you know, I'll put you in some sessions.
Yourself to Sweden. Such a big ask.
So I took out a credit card and started going into debt.
The Australian Idol thing's so wild. It's crazy that it had such a negative impact. Do you think that spurred you on to be better, or do you think it made you?
I honestly didn't. All it did was just make the end of high school a little hard for me, and just I think it was more personally thingy. Career-wise, like I said, it did absolutely nothing for my career.
Yeah.
I then went on and started my career.
Yeah.
It gave me a taste of something that was just not real. You know what I mean? It was like reality TV, like,
Sure.
And it was just like in a blessing. It's a blessing that I didn't go any further in the show, and that wasn't the route I went down because I wasn't ready. I hadn't even tapped into what I was good at. Like when I was 18, like that's when I really I felt like I learned how to sing, because it was like I started singing in pubs and doing the cover thing, and like, but for me, because I was still like such a, I'm competitive, and it became like we would do cover shows at bars, but I would want the whole bar by the end of it to be like, who is this guy? You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a cover show to me. It was just like it was like my own original show that I was just like, I'm gonna get everybody in here to be thinking that they've just seen like the next big thing. And we went on doing that for years and years, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And that's when I learned how to sing. That's when I learned how to sing for 3 hours straight and be hungover and, like get through a gig and like stamina and control and all that kind of stuff. And also to entertain, because, like it wasn't just that for me. I was dancing on the bars. I was like, I was trying to get everybody to get involved. I wasn't the background music. So that's sort of like, that was I guess like me cutting my teeth a little bit. And then the songwriting part came in. And then that was another huge element of it, because I was like, okay, I learn't the importance of great songs.
You've kind of had the root of like an indie band, kind of.
That's what I meant by it. It would have been nice to have the indie credibility that came with it, and that's who I was. Is it like I was going to Splendor every year. I was doing like all the things that you would, the bands that I loved, the artists that I loved, they were all from that world, and so that was the respect I yearned for. Do you know what I mean? And it was just, I definitely like feel like I've gone on to have some respect from certain parts of the industry, but it's it's a funny way how like it all started.
So back to the Australian Idol thing, something that I feel like I've been in kind of similar situations. Does it put you on the back foot where if someone says something nice to you, you're automatically like, is this guy gonna just rip into me? Like it's hard to take compliments from that point.
Yeah, I mean, even look at the Sam Pang thing. You know what I mean? Like I immediately took that as like, oh, he's just saying what everyone thinks. You know what I mean? Like even though it was a joke, and obviously he's a comedian, we sorted it out on the night with thanks to you guys. But
what a moment that
in a way,
was.
I mean, it's that thing. It's just like, you already have those doubts and this imposter syndrome stuff that's going on, and then when you come from something like that, and you've realistically, all I was doing in that moment was being vulnerable and caring about something that I, have spent my whole life, trying to get and achieve. And in that moment, I thought that was my shot at becoming a singer. And I was upset about it because I thought I just blew the shot.
Yeah.
So, and for that vulnerability, I got teased about it for the next 3 years of my life. Do you know what I mean? So it definitely has left some scars, and that, like I said, I probably used drugs and alcohol to cover up over the years and put on, and that sort of, because I don't know where that like releases this sort of like rock star, I don't give a fuck, like I'm great anyway kind of thing, or whatever it did for me.
Yeah.
It just allowed me to turn off any insecurities, I guess. But then that leads to a bunch of other insecurities because then you do stupid shit. So it's it's been interesting.
Have you faced anything else like that in the Australian media landscape?
Not really. That's what I mean. Like I feel like I was very much in saying all that when I came out. I feel like I did, like Australia did open me, like greet me with open arms or whatever. Do you know what I mean? All the mainstream media have supported me so much. Like all the from Carl Sanderlands to Fitzy and Whipper and all the radio people and all the television stations, like everybody is, have been big fans and big supporters. And
well, that's the impression that I've gotten over the years.
And,
I didn't know about the Australian Idol thing, but I've always felt there was been a big respect for you.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I can't, I've been very much supported. It's just like, how do you keep that going? You know what I mean? Like, it's like in a country where it's still also, we you don't want people to get sick of you. It's there's only so many outlets you can be on. There's only so many shows you can be on. You know how it is. So it's like, I thought that was where the Sam comment came from, because I was thought like, like I'm just everywhere. Like I'm sick of like not this kid again. But unfortunately, there's only so many shows to go on. There's only so many corporate gigs that you can get in this country because we are, a smaller country and a smaller market, and I've done them all, probably a few times.
Have you gone back and watched? Because I went after the show. For anyone who's unfamiliar, there's a show called Have You Been Paying Attention? There's a comedian called Sam Pang on it who's got this ongoing joke where he says the steady hands of Conrad Sewell.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it started as a dig, but I think it turned into something that was just absurd and kind of like it's just funny that he's bringing it up constantly for no reason. Did you go back and watch any compilations of him saying it? Or
I have watched one. I started getting tagged in it a lot, so I obviously watched it, and I was very butthurt about it.
Yeah,
I think I was drunk when I first heard wind of it, and I was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?"
Because as I watched it, at the first one, I was like, I don't know about that. But as it went on, I was like, this is actually quite funny.
Yeah.
It just gets weird.
For sure, yeah. And it definitely got funny to me as well. And I was just like, all right, guys, obviously just, leaning into a joke, that's working or whatever.
Yeah.
But it definitely hit a nerve with me because I was like,
for sure.
is that what everyone actually thinks? Like,
yeah.
And everyone's laughing. And then, there's always some comments, steady hand on my Instagram or something like that. And yeah, so I was very happy to chat to him at the Not On Your Rider show the other week and get Peter Hellier to get him on the phone and afterwards he sent a message to Pete saying, "Tell Con it's all good. It's just a joke, whatever." So it was good to get to the bottom of it because I did think at one point I was like, I got an enemy.
Yeah, no. Well,
and everybody needs to love me. What's going on?
It's interesting because you see these jokes and things like that, but you don't necessarily think that it is actually affecting someone. And when you brought it up, you could tell that it was like.
It's silly for me to feel like that because, man, who doesn't have people that they don't like? I mean, I know I'm not going to drop any names right now, but there's people that just annoy me. You know what I mean? Like as everybody has, and it's just coming from a place of insecurity and just I don't know many. I guess you got to have a thick skin, and you'd have to have a thicker skin the more fame you have. I guess it's like. So I came to this realization actually this week, or like in the last couple of weeks. I was like, with all this Diddy stuff that's been coming out, right? And I was just like, man, this shit just so crazy. It's actually my old manager worked for Puff for like 3 years or something like that. She was his assistant.
Yeah.
And it was like Hollywood's fucked. Like some of the shit that goes on, like I can't even imagine. And like, it's like, what is it? Would I even want that type of fame? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like to be on that level of like where your whole life is watched and you've got to do these things and be friends with these people that, potentially do horrible things. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, what kind of world is that at that level of fame? And I had this moment of like real gratitude for like what type of fame I almost have. And the fact that like, even right now, like I play shows and I have these beautiful fans that come out and spend their money on tickets and, it maybe only be 1,000 people in the room, but there's a real love there. And then I can still go to the shops and take my kid there and, maybe I have to take 2-3 pictures or something like that with nice people that come up to me and say, "Oh, we like your music." But it's not like I'm getting hassled and I have to like, always have a face on and like, that kind of fame must be so hard to deal with.
Yeah.
And which is also, that's the fame I thought I always wanted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was a kind of a cool moment where I was like, oh, maybe I don't want that. You know what I mean?
You can go to the shops and buy 1,000 bottles of baby oil by yourself. Jesus.
Insane, bro. That whole thing's got me bugging.
Yeah. Well, you should go back to Sam Pang. You should go back on Have You Been Paying Attention?
Yeah.
Let's just load you up with as many like just stings as possible. Just so many, like,
honestly,
we'll get a bunch of Brisbane comedians. We'll think of the nastiest shit to say,
but
just load you up so that you've just got something for him constantly.
Let's get him back.
Yeah,
he's had too many punts at me. We should be honest. I gotta get him back somehow.
It's the only way to beat him.
I would love to know where it sparked from because I have been on the show.
Yeah, well,
I don't know. When I was on the show, I thought he was because I didn't know who he was. But when I was on the show, what's the guy that's on Kath and Kim?
Glenn Robbins.
He was on the show, right? And the only thing I remember of when I went on the show was I accidentally took Glenn's sweater home because in the green room I had my suitcase out and there was a bunch of crap everywhere and I must have just thought it was my sweater and I put it in my suitcase and then for weeks we went back and forth on things trying to get him this sweater back.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I thought that was him, and then I was like, oh, that's not Sam Pang. Anyway, so I was like, well, what'd I do to that guy?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I didn't take his sweater.
One thing that you also kind of said as a throwaway line, maybe afterwards the show, something about celebrity friendships and how they're a bit fake. Is that the case?
Yeah.
Is it more PR for a lot of them, do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I don't have any celebrity friends.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, people are nice when you're with them, and like, there's moments of like there's a few people that have been really nice to me and like would still reply to a message, but at the same time, it's like it's hard for maybe they think they want something, you want something from them, or like it's hard to like to. Or maybe for me, maybe other people don't feel the same way. Maybe people just don't like me like that. But like, even like, I was really when Ed Sheeran was in town and I opened for him, I was really close with him while he was on tour, and even after the tour, back in LA, like I went to the LA show and like he put me on the door list, and all my friends came and stuff like that. And then I think he just sort of I think maybe I'd like to think that when he stepped away from the internet. And we stopped. That's when, we stopped communicating because he no longer had a phone. But that's really when the last time I sort of heard from him. But it was like I did send some texts and literally just didn't get an answer back. But it was just like, he's obviously one of the most genuine guys in the game. But I think that was more him. No, in the back of my mind, I'm like, did I do something? Like, did I take too many drugs on that tour?
What did I do?
He's trying to keep me away from him. But yeah. So I feel like the only people that I can say I can still, that would text me back. Craig David's always text me back and being very nice. Taylor Hanson from Hanson, I'm really close with. He's one of the sweetest guys in the world, and like literally like is doing a lot for me and like thinks about me and like tries to find the right collaborators and like who I respect a lot as well. Like some people think he's just like it's Hanson, but Hanson were as big as the Spice Girls. You know what I mean? Like they were absolutely iconic in the 90s at one point, and they're super talented as well. Great songwriters, super soulful players, great singers, and so yeah. I mean, I personally I've had relationships with lots of different. I've met a lot of different celebrities and stuff like that, and it's all been nice, and no one's sort of done me dirty, or I can't say a bad word about anyone really. But I've found it hard to have relationships with people that have, I just don't personally have, close relationships with anyone who's super famous. I feel like they must find it quite hard to trust people.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure Ed, like everybody would want something from Ed. Do you know what I mean? Because the thing is, Ed changed my life as well. Like he just opening up for him. Like immediately gave me a fan base. I remember Leo, and that was a favor. Like Leo signed, ran Atlantic for a long time. So, when Ed was trying to break it in America, I think Leo was quite influential in working those early records. And so when Leo's main priority was making me the biggest star in the world, it was a phone call to Stu, Ed's manager, and like, I need Conrad to open up for him in Australia. And it was like, well, we already got somebody opening up for him. He's like, well. Now you got another one. You know what I mean? Like, so it was people pulling favors, and Ed was so lovely to me on that tour, and like, he embraced me, and like, and I, and we would go out, and we just had such a good time, and but that really like just established a fan base for me as well, because I had a song working at radio. Now I got a credibility of someone like Ed Sheeran putting me on his tour. The next thing you know, I'm selling out my own small shows. You know what I mean? So, I think people at the end of the day are just, it's a crazy industry to be in with a lot of fake shit going on, a lot of people trying to get something from you, and people just have their crews and they keep it tight. I think that's the situation with most people. And when you see, when you see those celebrities like with all these celebrity besties and stuff like that, and at award shows. I mean, that shit is fake if you ask me. You know what I mean? Like, plus, we're all a bit competitive. You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
Everyone's secretly hoping that somebody's.
Of course they do. You listen.
Not really, but you know what I mean. Like, there's a few people that you're not with, but there's definitely people that you just don't like, and you're just like, man, I know this guy again. I'm sure I'm one of them for many people.
How early into your career was the Ed Sheeran tour?
It was very early. Like, literally, Start Again was. Awesome. I mean, Ed gave me the aria for the song of the year. Like, it was all. It was like that year was like the year that everything changed. It was like Firestone came out. It was massive.
Yeah.
Start Again came out. Was amazing here.
2015.
Yeah. And then 2015. And then my sister had the song at the same time. So we were both like number one on the charts. And that had never happened outside of like Michael and Janet Jackson or something like that. So our lives sort of changed immediately. And then I also got put on the Ed Sheeran tour. Then I was on the Maroon 5 tour after that. Then I'm back in. Then I was on with Jess Glynn in the UK. And then we were trying to break the record in the UK, and I was in this bus just up and down the UK, just whoring myself out, trying to get people to listen. And then back to America, I was on tour with Andre Day. Then I did the Jess Glynn tour in the US, and like in between that, just jumping from this city, like Vegas to Ibiza. Now we're doing this, still supporting Firestone because that was still a monster and just getting bigger and bigger. And Kygo was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And there was opportunities that you'd get the phone call and you'd be like, we're doing this, like we're doing Lollapalooza in South America. Can you sing Firestone? And now they have this kid that sings Firestone, and they use him a lot. His name's Justin Jesso, and he has another song with Cargo, but he does the ending. And I guess
How do you feel about that?
Oh, it drives me nuts. But
it would.
Yeah, it's painful.
Is
he's
your
a sweet kid.
Yeah,
he's a sweet kid, but it's just like I'm always like. Yeah, it's not but he loves it. He'll ride that train till it's got no wheels left. But it's but he's good. He gets up there, he does like 3 or 4 songs. I mean, it obviously works for them because they don't have to pay anyone, any of the real singers that thing. It must be hard when that's sort of the show. Do you know what I mean? Like the good thing about Cargo is that he does bring out brings out singers at his shows. It's not just a DJ concert, and he plays piano and everything. So like it's a bit of a show when you go to the concert. And saying that, like I still, whenever I can, I'll go and do it still because I love doing it. And it's the show is there's fireworks going off. It's an amazing show, and I love singing the song still. So whenever I can, if they're in Australia, I do it. And or if it's something that's I haven't been there.
Yeah. Okay. So you still do jump up and
very rarely. For a bunch of reasons that as you can probably tell, but every now and then, if there's something, if it feels right, and I don't feel like I'm getting taken advantage of.
Yeah, fair enough. One thing, when I kind of first went on our big support tour, the ego monster really took over, and after you set, you'd walk through the crowd and be like, I hope people notice me. What's that like? Doing that on the scale of an Ed Sheeran tour, or
I mean, I remember we did like a signing afterwards, and it was just there was just lines and lines. It's just tough. It's the first real touch of fame, isn't it? It's like it's amazing. Yeah, it's like wow, this is actually going to happen. You know what I mean? Like I'm actually going to be this like big. I could be this big star one day. You know what I mean? Like it's working. And they're all waiting for signatures, and they've just seen you, open for him, and it's like it's a little touch of, what you think is to come.
Yeah. Does it take a little while to work past that kind of?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like those years were so fast, and I was so. It was kind of weird. Like you work for something your whole life, and you think that you deserve it, so you almost just like take it in your stride. But in doing so, you maybe make a few bad. I think I made a few bad. Like if I could go back again, is what I'm saying. I think I would have worked harder. Yeah. I wouldn't have drunk as much and partied as much. And just tried to, I think that, at that point, that's when you need to be the most injected, the most like ready to go, like working your ass off. And I think because it's like the stars are aligning, and it's like if you've got enough, and in saying that, you know, there was a lot of things that didn't go my way as well. So it's like I don't completely blame myself, you know, but I do take somewhat of the blame for you know, for me not just in that moment becoming the biggest star on the planet. And it definitely like weighs me that like I had all these crazy opportunities, and like I had this guy like Leo and everything he did for me, and you know, that kind of opportunity for it to potentially go. But at the same time, whenever I got on stage, I always gave 100%, you know, maybe once or twice, maybe not. But like most of the time I would pour my heart out, and you know, I always showed up. I was always on time. I was never like, you know, my partying shit never really got in the way in that sense. It was just like, wonder what would have happened if you had never had a drink in your life, and you were just like, you were like just ready to, like, you were always on this like 2.0 shit. And
if I was up writing songs, what could I
like even in the studio, like I didn't love being in the studio, you know what I mean? Like we had this amazing setup in LA. My management had this Electric Feel, they had this studio, and it was like right on Sunset, and like I had that, you know, now like looking back, like that studio. So it's like Lewis Bell, who produces all the Post Malone songs, and not only that, like is in with everyone. One of, like, look him up. He's one of the biggest producers in the world. Like, and you know, Post wasn't signed yet to Electric Feel. He sort of came in a bit later with Dre London, and then Austin started managing him. And then Brian Lee, who's another huge songwriter, Andrew Watt. All of us were all signed to Electric Feel and working in this studio. Now, you know, Andrew just produced the last Rolling Stones record. Like all these, like we would be working together every night, just like whatever. You know what I mean? It would just be like casual. I worked with Lou like 200 times, written songs after songs after songs. But, you know, and then he meets Post, and they go on and they create some like incredible stuff together, and it takes over the world. You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, however, you know, was that just like not the connection being there with me and them, or like was I not being the best? Like, and I remember what it was like in the studio for us. Like, we would start a song, and then we'd go to Bootsy Bellows, and, you know, bring back like 10 girls and just party in the studio till 5 a.m. Do you know what I mean? And sing a bunch of shit and not finish it, and like, and they'd be like, do you know what I mean? And like, I think like, so in those moments, like, it's like, well, yeah, obviously, you know, you should have been more dialed in those moments. But then it's also like, that's just, you know, that's who I was. I was, you know, and I'm sure other people are the same. You know what I mean? I'm sure not everyone is just like, not everyone is the hardest working person in the music industry. Like, you know, like I hear Taylor Swift is and people like that. Like, so I have regrets about that, how hard I worked, and how much I wish I was more dialed in that part of my career, because who knows what could have happened. But at the same time, there's a lot of things that didn't happen, and they didn't happen because of nothing to do with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you were like 25 or something.
I was young. I didn't have a great support network around me. I didn't have, as much as that management team is a great management team now, at the time I didn't have a very close relationship with I didn't have a manager that I felt like I could, you know, be there for me on an emotional level or anything like that. It was a business relationship, and I didn't have any family around me. I didn't have any, you know, I had my friends around me, but, you know, my friends all partied as well. And like, so yeah.
You probably just had a huge injection of cash too.
Yeah. It was just like, I felt like a rock star for the first time in my life. Everything was going my way. It was like, you know, things are happening. I was like I was like their pinup boy for that company. Like, they were just like, it was like my studio. Like, I just got to work out of it whenever I wanted. It was like, yeah, Conrad's in the A room. Like, it felt like I was just, felt very, you know, loved, and I could do whatever I wanted kind of thing. But, you know, ultimately I needed probably more mentorship, I think, in that moment, and someone to sort of pull me aside, and that I respected and that I wanted to be like, or something like that, and be like, hey dude, like you need to like sort of rein it in, or you need to like really focus right now, because this is the time that things could potentially change for you forever.
What year was this?
This was like from that period, from like 2004, like 2013 to, I'm so bad with years. It just all feels like life to me. I don't remember what year shit happens, but 2013 through till, you know, up until about 4 years ago.
Okay.
I was, you know, in that No, that's not true. About 4 years ago. So like before COVID, like two years before COVID happened, I was still sort of in that circle and like, still living the LA thing, doing the LA thing. And
well, you did some amazing things while you were there. I mean, you had a #1 Australian single, which is absolutely nothing to sneeze at.
No, I did amazing things. Like the people I worked with, like I got to work with some of the, I worked with, Timbaland. I worked with like Brody Brown and all of Bruno Mars's crew, and like
I loved your Timbaland story too.
Yeah, the Timbaland.
It's so interesting.
That's like Leo at the end of it, like after that situation. And I think the other thing is that like as a label, 300 was still figuring out. I was the guinea pig. Do you know what I mean? Like they didn't have infrastructure. They had Leo, who was incredibly powerful and very well respected, and Kevin Lyles and everybody. Like they had big influential people that have had a lot of history and success in the industry, but they were still young as a company and they were still figuring things out. And I remember like Leo like calling like Julie Greenwell at Atlanta. It could be like, so what do we do next, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, what are you doing at the moment with so and so? And like, and then we do that. You know what I mean? Like, and then on an A&R level, there was no one that was like, this is what we need to do for like this. These are the songs that are working. It needs to be about this. So I was just making, and I can write a lot of different styles of music and sing a lot of different styles of music. So I was ADD with it. One day I'd be writing a song and it sound like, Bruno Mars, and the next day I'd be writing a singer-songwriter ballad again. Like, and because I was working with all the people that were delivering those songs, it was like, I could be anything. You know what I mean? It was very much a chameleon. And yeah, so sorry, I lost my train of thought. The Timbaland thing. So when I think that at that point we realized that on an A&R level there was a problem, and like we needed to like almost like create a sound for me, because I had just had songs. I had one big song with a DJ, and I had one big ballad, and I could sing the shit out of a ballad, but we didn't really know what was an up tempo for Conrad Sewell. You know what I mean? Like what does that sound like? What's my sonic thing that makes that my voice is what tied everything together, but like just like how when Timberlake came out, it was like, that first album was like, wow, this is Justin Timberlake. What a Pharrell, everyone, that way it was made, the way it sounded, it was like a superstar has been born. Do you know what I mean? And so with that in mind, we reached out to Pharrell, we reached out to Timbaland, we reached out to Mark Ronson, a bunch of different, pretty much the biggest guys in the game, Leo did. And the one that bit was Timbaland, and we went to his house and we sat down with him, and he was like, I was reading his book on the plane, like on the way back from Australia to go meet him, and I was just like so pumped about it, because a big fan, and just obviously everything he'd done, and yeah, we went to his house, and he was like, listen, I think it could be really great. I've got some ideas. This could be like almost like a more country soul vibe on like a Justin Timberlake thing, and you got this whole Australian thing going on. Like it's gonna, we're gonna come up with some dope shit. And he works quite closely with these guys, like with James Fauntleroy and what are they called? It's like they're like a production group, super talented guys, just amazing. Some of them have done a lot of the Bruno stuff, and he brought all these musicians into the studio, and like we started working, but it was pretty clear early on that he was, even though we had paid him to executive produce an album for me or to become my executive producer, he wasn't going to be very hands-on. And, it was a lot of me writing over, tracks that probably Justin wasn't taking.
Yeah.
It wasn't, he was very much,
So in these situations,
not there, but which was a bit disappointing, because I really wanted that situation to work. But like I said, I mean, the thing from someone like Tim is like, he's had he's had such huge successes, and maybe that hunger to find the next Justin Timberlake wasn't there in me, or maybe it was just, an easy check to take.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, I don't want to sound like I'm bag mouthing all these people, but it's just like, this is my experience I'm just being honest with what happened to me. And anyway, but they ended up giving the money back that we had paid them, and and we moved on, and we didn't go down that route. And then after that, I went in with James Fauntleroy, and he's one of the most amazing songwriters on the planet, and obviously writes a lot with Justin and writes a lot with Bruno, and Brody Brown, who works a lot with Bruno as well, was in the studio, and we were really close, and still are. He's such a beautiful man. We started working on stuff, but it sort of sounded like Bruno. You know what I mean? Like it was like the way James writes, he's very much like stream of consciousness in the studio. So he's writing these melodies that I'm just like would die for, and I just like, man, this guy is so insanely talented. But it's like it's not something I would say lyrically. It was like, like Be My Diamond Girl and like all this like more stuff that Bruno could pull off. Some that I didn't feel like I could pull off as an artist, or like and stand behind and be like, oh, this is something I would sing about or something I would say. So I've got about 6 or 7 songs that I've done with the boys in Fauntleroy that I love, but that will never see the light of day because it just doesn't feel like something I could sing. You know what I mean? Or should be singing.
Yeah. So they finished songs.
But I still like to bump them in the car.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So it's that was sort of the last thing creatively with that sort of lot. So amazing opportunities, all the incredible people and talented, and have had so much success in their own right. That just didn't work out for me. That were just not right for me in particular. Do you know what I mean? Now I've sort of come full circle, and I'm now working again with Jamie Hartman, who I wrote Start Again with, and Tinas, who I wrote Firestone with, and I'm all the stuff that I've been working on last year is with those guys that I worked with before any of the success happened.
Your latest song's a banger. Different kind
thanks,
of
man.
Yeah,
that was me and Dave Gibson and this guy Josh Cumbie. But now I don't know. Like I feel I'm not so precious about it anymore in the sense of like I just don't. I used to feel like these songs, you just had to keep going until that one song came that was just like it's gonna change everything. Like a Lucas Graham 7 Years, or like a Olivia Rodrigo, the driver's license one or wherever. Like that's just like that pops through. A Gautier, somebody that I used to know, that just pops through and changes your life.
Yeah.
And I do still believe that happens, but I believe it's a lot harder to know when that's happening, or like to find those songs, or like even if you do find that song, like does it still work like that? Like with the amount of music that's coming out, like can you still poke through New Music Friday and all of a sudden someone like me, for example, have a moment again and it be like, oh shit, like we got the biggest song in the world right now. I have to believe that that's still the case. Otherwise I wouldn't still be doing it. You know what I mean? But it definitely feels like now we're just putting out music to continue to, feed the fans with music. And there's something nice about that as well. Like not having this pressure of like, oh, this is a cool song. I like it. Let's put it out.
Yeah. Do you find like those mystical songs that come out of nowhere, do you think they are, there's just something magic in them, or do you think they need to be worked on really like hard? Do you spend more time turning a song into something amazing, or are you more like, no, this one doesn't have the spark, next one?
I'm very much some people like can work, like I've heard like Teenage Dream like got rewritten like 20 times and stuff like that, and like for me it's like it either happens very quickly or it doesn't happen at all. Like all the songs that I like, when I have that like jumping on the couch moment and I'm like, holy shit, this is going to be one of the ones, it happens very quickly and easily, and just like the word, like it's like everything comes out of my mouth. This just makes sense, and like like I think of the perfect rhyme immediately afterwards. Yeah. Not always, but like a lot of the time, it's just like, oh shit's happening, and then it's like, okay, let's just not fuck it up. Like oh, it's so good, but oh, is it right for me? And then I'm really nervous about singing it because I want to get on the mic and make sure that like. But in those moments, that's the most exciting thing about music. That's when I'm just like, oh my gosh, this could be the song that that gets me, gets me that shot again, or like puts me like in a place that's, So that still happens, and it's happened to me a few times in the last year. Like I've written a couple of songs that with Jamie that I think that I had that feeling, but then then you settle down a bit and you go back and you listen to it and you still think it's great, but you maybe that initial like, holy shit, this is going to change my life goes down a little bit.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I never go back in and like rework it. I think I'm just not that guy. Even with re-recording vocals, I'm just not like, I can never get a better vocal than the day I recorded it.
Okay.
Like it's like, I'm very much like a live singer in that sense. Like you can make me sing it 500 times, but it'll just get shitter and shitter. Like to make me sing it 3 times, you'll get the real emotion. You'll get me sort of being a bit anxious behind the mic, but also just like wanting to make it sound good so it just works. Whereas like other people, they get better and better as they sing it more and more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Did you find that feeling with the songs that are your biggest hits, or were there any surprises there?
Yeah, Healing Hands, I felt like it's felt special straight away. And Start Again felt special straight away. And also when I wrote Healing Hands, my manager at the time was just, he literally played like the day I wrote it, I think that night he played it like 50 times or 60 times, and he was at my house. So like by the 60th time hearing it, I was like, and he was one of those guys that literally like he would convince you that anything was a hit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but like,
for sure.
when he believed in something, he really just believed it, and would just like, he would be like, no, you don't understand. Like, I'm right. Like, it's like it's like, how can you be right? How do you know if it's a hit until it's a hit? But sure enough, he was right, and it was a hit down here. Yeah, so I definitely knew with a couple of them. Didn't know with Firestone, as we talked about.
Yeah.
Like,
it's the music industry is just full of these people who just talk so much shit to you. Don't you think?
The music industry is just a bunch of shit.
And no one knows.
From like, not to bag anybody out, but like, it's a very fake industry. Like in the sense of like, even like you work, like I've been signed to every major label, Universal, Warner, and Sony. Do I have relationships with anybody at those labels now? Did any of them call me?
Yeah.
No. But when I was on the label, I could have slept at their houses. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's insane.
Or before you signed, they would have done anything for you.
No, there are actually a few nice people that I am still friends with in the industry on a label side, but there's some good people in the thingy. But generally, yeah, like it's a business. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think like because it's music and it's personable and like, it's cool, and you go into the office and everyone's best friends and you go out for drinks, and like it's, it feels more like, and they are there to make you feel. Think about all the internationals that come through and they have to fucking, make sure they're all fucking happy. You know what I mean? Like so and so's down. All right, guys, get out the checkbook. Especially back when like, Dennis was running Sony and stuff like that. Like it was like everything would be, everyone would be treated like, like a mate. Like do whatever you need to keep everybody happy. Do you know what I mean? Like the money that was actually spent was amazing. It was like, felt like the old days.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's but that's their job. Do you know what I mean? Like I remember going to different countries and like their job is like pick us up from the airport, take us to the nicest restaurant, make sure that we're happy so that we want to come back and do promo, and keep the record selling in that market. So you would be treated really nicely, and everybody would say whatever they need to say. So, and that's me. Imagine what they're like to people like that are really making the money. Do you know what I mean? You could just do whatever you want.
That's true. One thing you brought up before, which I'm kind of quite interested in, how did you become friends with Craig David?
I actually met him in a lift when I Start Again was the #1 song in the country at the time, and he was walking out of like the Hits Network or something like that
in Australia.
In Australia, and we weren't on the same label actually. He was on Sony and I was on Warner at the time, but our radio people like introduced us, and I was like, dude, I'm like huge. Like that, he was the first person I like. His first album, I learned back to front. I auditioned with Rendezvous. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Idol thing. Like I think I only knew when I first started doing covers. I had like 18 songs and 12 of them were Craig David songs. Like it was insane. Do you know what I mean? Like so, I was a big fan, and when I met him, luckily I had the #1 song in the country. So I got introduced to Craig as like, this is Conrad. He's actually got, a big hit down here at the moment.
Yeah.
And Craig was just super nice. I was like, oh man, that's amazing. And like, anyway, like we chatted for like 5 minutes, and I was like, oh man, I'd love to, work together one day. Just, as you say to a lot of people that you meet, that you idolize, not thinking it's ever going to happen. And he gave me his number, and like a month or so later, I was in London. And I texted him and I was like, hey mate, I'm in London. I was like, if you got any time to work, I'd love to. And he's like, hey man, yeah. He's like, I'll clear the schedule. I'll come in for a few days.
I was supposed to be making love from Wednesday to Sunday.
Yeah, he's like, imagine if he did say that. It would have been amazing. And we went in and we wrote a couple of songs, and but it was just like, he was so lovely, and like even like at the end, like I was like, oh, can you just do like an ad lib take, like just because I loved all his he'd always have like his phrasing on ad libs were always so good. So like on the songs that we wrote together, there's a track where Craig's just singing over the top, that being like, you know, like Craig David, not really that, but just like. And then we just stayed in contact, whenever he's in town, like and then I moved over to Sony, and he was on Sony at the time, and brought me his shows when he was here. And then when I was in Ibiza, he does Ibiza Rocks there, and all my boys went out to see him there, and we went backstage and hung, and he's just he's always just been nice, always responded to texts, and just like I think there's a few like really, really good guys in this industry that are just very nice, and maybe they're just also just nice to people coming up and stuff like that as well, and just sort of. But he's always just been lovely, which is nice because it's nice to meet people that you've been fans of, and then not be dicks.
Yeah, which is sometimes the opposite happens, which is a question that I bring up on here a lot. Have you ever met someone whose music you really enjoyed, and then after meeting them, it's really affected the way that you consume their music?
I mean, probably a lot of people, to be honest. But
yeah.
I don't want to call anyone out, but
yeah, that's all right.
I was
you can talk around their name. You don't need to say exactly.
Yeah, I've been on tour with someone that with oh fuck it, I'll just call him out. Adam Levine wasn't very nice to me when I was on tour with them. He was pretty he didn't even talk to me the whole tour when we were thinking, and then the last day I got like a message from Leo saying, "Oh, Adam's gonna come say hi to you." And then, like on the very last day, like they did a runner from the stage to the bus, and he said just wait side stage. From the management had me waiting side stage, and then he just sort of ran straight past me again.
Oh.
It's like
great, yeah.
And he turned back around. He's like, I think James, one of the other guys in the band, was like, "Oh, you got to like say thanks at least coming on the tour."
Yeah, and
he turned back around and said, yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for coming on tour. And that was it. But we didn't really like have a relationship. But then again, it's like I can't blame him for that. He's playing arenas. Like he's probably got so much shit on his plate. Like, but I did remember it. You know what I mean? And like definitely like, and that was a very different experience to Ed. So like, I remember in that moment, I remember calling Leo and him being like, I remember Leo was Run DMC's tour manager. And he said, I remember when I told him that, he's like, "Are you upset about it?" And I'm like, no, I'm not upset about it, but like, it'd just be nice if the guy, at least said hi. Like, I just feel like we're opening up for him. He doesn't even know that we're doing it. And and I was a big fan of their first album. Like, and
so I remember seeing you posting about it too, being like, I can't believe I'm opening up for like one of my favorite bands ever, because I was trying to find photos of it. For the show.
Right.
So you're obviously so stoked beforehand.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it was amazing. Like they're such. I think like Sugar was like my favorite song at the time or something like that. I was just pumped about the whole thing. Anyway, Leo was like, I remember we Run DMC, we were opening up for U2, and which is funny that Run DMC opened up for U2, but or maybe it was the other way around. I can't remember, but it was definitely that, because the point of the story is that he said, and I'll tell you this story. He's like, Bono left a letter for us in the dressing room with their number on it, and said, welcome to the tour, and you need anything, you call me, blah, 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 blah. And he said, and that's how you treat people. And he was like, he said, so just remember how you feel, remember how you feel, because if you're ever in the position to give somebody a hand and to put someone on, make sure that you treat them the same way that you want to be treated, and whatever. And it definitely stuck with me, because like anybody who comes and opens up for me, as and we get that happens all the time. You know what I mean? I make sure that they're in the dressing room with us. You know what I mean? They don't have to go and sit in some other dressing room, and they feel like they can drink our beer and do whatever you want. I mean, it sounds like that goes without say, but maybe when if I was the biggest star on the planet, I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. But I don't know. There's definitely it stuck with me a little bit, because I was just like, yeah, would have been nice to. But it's hard to judge people for that stuff because, like I said, you got so much pressure. You're about to get up and perform. You know, you're worrying about your voice. Like I don't like to talk to people before I sing a lot. Like I'm always worried about my voice. Can't imagine what I'd be like if I was on a world tour in an arena. Like the last thing I'd want to do was go talk to the bloody opening act. You know what I mean? So like, you know, like I can't really judge anyone for it, but like definitely was like, you know.
It seems to be a pretty common theme in these giant shows. Like I've had friends open for like recently Guns N' Roses. They just didn't even say anything, didn't even acknowledge that they were there.
Yeah, and it's just like, and that's, so it's essentially, it makes sense, but it's just like, it's not what you would think. You know what I mean? You would think that all the bands must all go out afterwards. And like, I'm going into it green thinking that I'm going to be best friends with them. You know what I mean? And like, but also I had come from the Ed Sheeran experience, which was like, you know, we were going out and having a good time, and you know, we were going to the casino and like doing things, you know, having fun together. So it was more, oh, this is just going to be like that.
One of our first ever shows was supporting Franz Ferdinand.
Oh wow!
And we were rubbish, but they like stuck around after the show. They like brought us into and they gave us their emails and stuff, and was like, "You're ever in London? Let us know. You can sleep on our floors and things like that." So that was like the level that we started at.
Amazing.
Like I was blown away that they were just so
I feel
nice
like in the indie world there would be more of that though. Do you know what I mean? Like it would be more less ego and more like we're actually making music here, and like for sure. It's like more about the hang.
Do you think maybe Maroon 5 skyrocketed to that level too?
Well, I think what happened with Maroon 5, well, what I heard anyway, was that Adam got to the point where he just realized he didn't need to write the songs by himself. And that's when Moves Like Jagger came out, that was Max and Max Martin and what's his name? Rami and all those guys. And it was like, oh, we've needed a hit for ages and now we've got one. And like, wait, you guys can get us more?
Yeah.
And that was when like they rolled them back to front, payphone. You know, it was just like they became mainstream pop radio for a second. You know what I mean? And it was just like, and I think they were all like, I actually know this for a fact because I went to rehab with one of the guys that was in the band a while back. And so he said, yeah, it just got to the point where like, you know, they realized, oh, we don't have to actually do the writing work and like hope that we write this hit song. There are people out there that can help us write these hit songs. That sounds like something they would obviously know, but their first album, I think it was like all them just writing. Like it was the band writing, and it was very much like that sound was created for them. So I think that, you know, and I think people wanted them to back that up. Again, like even the second album, you could still tell it was like they were very hands-on with the writing. And then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, well, let's just go get a couple of Max Martin bangers.
And yeah, why wouldn't you? You never spoken to Max Martin? Or
I have spoken to him, I peed next to him a couple of times. So he flew me out to, he didn't fly me out. We were trying to get in with him, but Max is very like, it's very hard, obviously. And I think Max chooses very specifically and very more to the point, at a specific part of your career, he will inject himself in and then take you from where you are to, and he did it for Taylor Swift, he did it for The Weeknd, he did it for Ariana,
Adele,
you know, he's doing it for Coldplay now, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, he does it at certain times, like, not that Coldplay needed Max, but it's like, they're obviously at a point where they now want to switch something up and now he's involved. And I remember we were trying to get in with him, and part of that plan was me flying to Sweden, and I performed at Dennis Pop was Max Martin's mentor, and they were honoring Dennis Pop in Stockholm, and Pete Berger, who was the A&R at the label, was like, I think Max wants you to perform at this thing. If he hears you sing, you know, I think, you know, that will be the game changer, and we'll get a couple of days.
It's a lot of pressure.
So I had to sing a Max Martin song because it was honoring Max and Dennis Pop. And I sang "I Can't Feel My Face" by The Weeknd. It just come out, and it's probably a bad decision because I should have just sung something a bit older, I think. But anyway, before I had to sing, I was in the bathroom and Max was in there washing his hands, and we just have a piss together. And I was like, "Hey man, after I finish my hands, I'd love to shake your hand." I was like, big fan, like huge fan, and I'm singing tonight. I'm singing for the tribute thing for Dennis, and he's like, "Oh man, yeah, so nice to meet you," and blah blah blah. And I sung, and he said it was amazing. But and he said that what did he say? He said something like, I said, "How do you know when you like, you know, when you want to work with somebody?" He's like, "You know, I think it has to be the right time for me I've always chosen at certain times, when to actually work with certain people. It's not
That's
like just like that. I work with everybody. It's like, it's almost like you get to a certain point where you've established yourself as something amazing in its own right. And then Max Martin can come in and take what you do so well and just get you this song or get you a few songs that can just elevate it just that tiniest bit, put a little bit of math into it.
Yeah.
That it's, and like it's, like the Taylor Swift album, the big pop album that he was involved with. It's like, it's the perfect example of it. The Weeknd was so cool and like playing all the festivals, already doing like the Michael Jackson-y thing with the falsetto, and like it's working. He's already there. And if this guy had a monster, imagine how big he becomes. Can't Feel My Face comes out, and there we go. There's your radio song that is going to play all year round, and then we do Blinding Lights, and now you're at the Super Bowl. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like,
do with Lizzo too. More recently, hey?
I mean, he does work with a lot of people. It's actually crazy. My old apartment in LA is on Doheny, and Max's studio is right next door. Like, so he has these two houses, and my window is like, I can see into the backyard. I can see into the studio. You can't really see into the studio, but you can see like when they're taking smoke breaks and shit, and you can hear music. So we always like Max, change the lights. But
extend the bridge.
Yeah, seriously. Bridge is too long, bro. Take it out.
Is there anyone else who
are you ready to work with me yet?
Would you ever like conveniently bump into him? Oh,
you see, like I see Benny Blanco all the time around where he's always around that. I think he lives around that area. But yeah. I mean, you do bump into people like that. I would see him a lot going into the studio. But I didn't like create a relationship with him. You know what I mean? Like from that thing in Sweden, there was there would have been 200 people in that room when I sung for him. And
but you were
that
Piss
thing.
Brothers.
Pardon?
You were Piss Brothers.
We were Piss Brothers. I know. It's like maybe that's why I didn't fucking get the gig. I tried to shake the guy's hand while he's hanging a piss. Baby. Classic Australian. Hey mate, how are you? Mate, you gotta get me a song. Fucking dying out here. Fucking Kygo. It's like, if I have to sing Firestone one more time, Max.
Are you sick of that song, or do you still love it?
Yeah, I'm definitely sick of it.
Yeah.
Just in the sense of, I'm not sick of it, but it's actually not. I'm not sick of any. Actually, I'm sick of all my songs, to be honest. But like when you sing it, when you like do 3 back-to-back shows or something like that, by the end of the 3rd show, you're just like, oh, fucking this thing again. But I still get off on it. I love performing, so it's not even about the song. It's like I just love that, like, I could be so hungover or so like tired or just not feel like getting on stage. And I'll get on stage and it's just like, afterwards, I'm just like the happiest person in the world. It's just like, it's like my medicine. That nice. And alcohol.
It's nice to have that like rabbit in your hat where it's like you've just got this song that you don't even need to think about that much, but the audience is going to respond so well.
Oh, mate. And that's what I love about great songs. You know what I mean? And I think once you first feel that, like I felt that when I first heard like a crowd sing back, and more started getting Healing Hands. Like when they like, Firestone, because as crazy as it is, like I still feel like, and I do feel like Firestone is my song, but it's like the ones like if I'm in the shops and like someone's like, or like someone's like, oh, I heard you on the radio today. I'm like, oh, what song was it? And then they're like, if they're like Firestone, I was like, yeah, of course. But if they're like Healing Hands, if they're one of mine from the first album, I'm like, oh, really nice. Yeah. You played it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like it means more almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I first heard like a crowd singing back Start Again or a whole like 1,000 people singing it together, every word, that's a crazy feeling. Yeah. Like, and then when you hear the whole of Coachella singing back Firestone, it's just a sea of people. It's like, holy shit.
How do you come down from that?
You don't. You just keep taking drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. You come down 3 days later. Nah. Yeah, you can't. It's very hard to. Like, even like now, it's hard for me to, like, Saturday night, we were in Sydney. We played a little Mary's Underground, like 400 people or something like that. And I was extremely tired because I'd played 2 shows, and I had a wedding, my wife's sister's wedding, and I sung at that as well. And I just hadn't slept, and my little boy was up at like 5 a.m. and I was literally like asleep 3 minutes before I was about to go on stage. Yeah. And I was like, oh, man, I gotta really get this shit together. I'm about to sing for an hour and 20 minutes, get some energy, and went on stage, and it took me a minute. But by the end of the show, I'm like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
What are we doing now?
Just
Do you know what I
run
mean?
through a
Like I was
wall.
just, it's like the ultimate adrenaline. So it's like, because it's just, you become this other thing when you're up there. You have to. Otherwise, it's like, they're just going to look at you like, especially me, like, because I care so much what other people think. It's like, I can't get up there and give you, I don't even know how to sing at anything but 100%. I can technically change things a tiny bit, but I've been on the road with people and like, you know, I just know that they're singing at like 60% for the audience just to protect their voice.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm like, wow, I admire you. Like, I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I didn't care that much and I could, like, you know, I'll be
For sure. Yeah.
like, and maybe that just comes with experience and to the point where you literally just have to protect your voice that much if you're playing a crazy amount. But
it's probably a business decision, right?
well, yeah. I mean, it makes you can't survive it at 100% all the time. I think obviously if you had a crazy touring thing, it's like I wouldn't be able to survive if I was singing like I do now because I'm not that big and I do only play a few shows here and there. You know, I can afford to give them everything every time I get up there.
Yeah. Do you purposely space out shows because of that?
No, I can run them back pretty close back to back, but yeah, I wouldn't. That's the thing. It's like as much as I mean, I would love to just be touring all around the world, and that's the plan. You know what I mean? The plan is to just to continue to build and continue to put great music out, and hopefully have some success in other markets where we can just really start to tour outside of Australia as much as we want. I mean, that's literally the dream.
I noticed you had a lot of videos with a lot of German comments underneath it.
Yeah.
Do you have a German fan base?
Yeah. So this is a funny story. So when I'd written, I hadn't written Start Again. I'd started writing songs and I was in a band. So when I left high school, we started a band called Sons of Midnight, and it was my 4 best mates from high school. And we thought we wanted to be Kings of Leon. We wanted to be the Strokes. It was at that time where all those bands were like, you know, indie rock was the thing.
Yeah.
And like I was like singing with an English accent, like at one point. I think it was fucking ridiculous.
We all were.
Yeah.
Some of us still do.
She don't know who she is.
God.
I was like literally like just kooking it up.
Yeah.
Oh fucking some of the songs, mate. Oh my god. And we were ridiculous. Like we would get so drunk, and like not while we were playing, but like just in life and play, and like we thought that's what it was about. And like then but we also, you know, I was still the singer that I was, and I was still a good songwriter, and we ended up getting a deal with Universal Germany. And
how? Just right.
Hayden started shopping the record, and Daniel Lieberberg, who is now like the head of Sony for like the whole of Europe. I wrote this song called The Fire, and he was like, heard it. He thought it was a hit, and he was like, all right, we'll fly them out. So they fly all 4 of us long-haired idiot Brisbane kids out to Berlin, put us up for a month at this hotel called the Michelberger Hotel, which is the sickest hotel in Berlin. Like there's a bar downstairs. Yeah. Like on a Sunday night, like Justice will pop in and do a DJ set, or like, you know, Phoenix will come in and do an acoustic set, like insane. And we had an open tab at this place. So we all we lived upstairs in this beautiful hotel, this cool like Berlin hotel. And we would have breakfast was on Universal for a month, and then and the bar. So we end up just drink all day long, and like, you know, we were just there kind of working. We'd open for Avril Lavigne and Simple Plan.
Wow.
Yeah, and we went out on this little run, and then they came back to time for us to put the song out. So they flew us back, and they had us there for a year, and they got us this apartment, and we called ourselves the Kings of Ostkreuz, and we were just belligerent drunks in Berlin, like never learning the language, just being like, "G'day, mate," and we would go on tour with bands like that and playing all these like family festivals, but getting like bulk, like just getting shit faced, like blackout drunk after them, and like, you know, talking to like catching trains to the next, like it was just such a loose time in our life. And like, I guess another example of us not taking advantage of an opportunity.
Yeah, maybe.
But ultimately, we were clueless. We didn't have a sound. We had a couple of songs that I'd written, and the label, it just sort of, it didn't work. The song didn't really connect. It which makes sense. I mean, we weren't a German band. It was like Lana Del Rey was on the label at the time, and she had just came out, and it was like, that was the main priority. And we'd always joke whenever we would go to the office to see everybody at Universal, we'd be like, that's just Lana Del Rey taking all the resources again, I see. And like, we're like, what shitty bus are we taking out this week?
Yeah.
And like, but it was the best time like of our life. We had so much fun. And then after that, that's when I moved to LA after that. I was like, all right, cool. Gonna go. And then the boys were just like, they knew it was coming, that I was gonna leave the band. And it was just like, I was gonna try, and the songs I were writing were like piano ballads. And it was just like, that's when the Jay thing happened, and then the Leo thing happened, and then we were off to the races.
But you still have this weird little pocket of
yeah,
German
because we opened for Avril Lavigne and Simple Plan, and who else did we open for? Like, what was that band? They were sick. They had that song, Joan of Arc. What were they called again? Joan of Arc. Remember that band? What were they called? Oh gosh. They sort of came and went, but they were an Aussie band. Jonah. I can't believe I can't remember the name.
Aussie band. That doesn't ring a bell for me.
I'll remember it, and I'll figure out who it was. But anyway, we toured with them and did some cool things. But just another chapter in the in the book, I guess.
Yeah, damn.
That was the first real chapter, actually.
Yeah.
But it was an experience. And then we actually went to make a second album, and we made a sick album, and we finally sort of found some kind of chemistry as a band. But the label didn't like it, and so there's a second album that's never got released.
It never got released.
We always talk about whenever we all catch up, we're always like, we should drop the second album, put it under another name.
Yeah.
But no, we haven't done it yet.
Surely
we will one day.
Your contract's expired by now.
Yeah, I think I even talked about it's more like we'd have to pay the producer. Do you know what I mean? The guy that did it. And but I think I actually emailed him one night when I was like during COVID, and I was on like a bender or something, and I was like, I'm putting the album out. Like, it's like, and I was like, Martin, can we put it out? Do we have to pay you? And he's like, nah, just put it out. So we should just put it out. Like, Spotify, I mean,
give those
join the other trillion songs that come out every week.
Yeah, you might as well. I haven't even looked at the notes. I've had such a good time chatting with you. I won't take up too much.
That went for a while, didn't it?
Yeah, I won't take.
I hope I didn't blab on. I hope I didn't offend anybody.
You were very reserved. I thought you were going to drop more haters, but I'm glad. I mean, I'm kind of glad you did.
It is what people want to hear, isn't it? But I think, like I said, ultimately, I've lived and learned and come to this. That like everyone's on their own journey, and I think I don't think that there's too many bad people out there. I think people just sort of meet people at different times in their lives, and they're either like, it's either a good experience or a bad experience, and I've had both, and it's about the journey, and I'm grateful for mine.
Yeah, for sure. What have you got coming up that people can get hands on tours?
We've got 3 shows this week. If you're in Australia, we were in Adelaide on Thursday night. Not that this will be out by then, but anyway,
I can try. My best.
Friday we're in some place called Tombican. Saturday we're in Barrel, I think.
Okay.
So super random shows, but anyway, we're going there, and it's going to be fun. And then I'm opening for Big Time Rush in October.
Which is weird because this is one of those bands that I'd never heard of, but all of a sudden have like millions and millions of followers.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they were a Disney band, and like that's how they started or anything like that. But they reached out about me opening up for them, and I mean, I'm down. Any chance to get on stage and sing and convert a few Conrad Sewell believers?
Yeah. Are you doing
the steady hand will be there.
You see that?
Yeah.
The steady hand will be there.
I'm sending Sam's tickets to your house. I'm sending tickets to your house, mate. Does everybody want to come in the family, or is it just you?
Put him on the door, dude.
Yeah.
He's at home writing jokes about Sonia Kruger, dude. He's got to write. He's got to host the Logies again.
Yeah, seriously. Oh well. But yeah, so that's in October 12th, 13th, and then October 15th, head back to LA and finish some of this music, and then just keep riding the train and see where it takes me.
Yeah, can't wait to hear it. You got another album on the horizon? Or?
I think we definitely do. I definitely got enough songs for an album, and I think that's what it's looking like it's going to be. I just want to get it. I'm not with Sony anymore. Like, the last 2 songs came out independently, and I just want to get the right setup again. I want to By the way, I don't know if I'm sweating on this camera, but it's very hot in this room. Just
hot,
letting people know, we had to turn the fan off for sound reasons. Yeah, I just want to set it up properly again and like sort of make sure that there's a decent budget behind it and the right exposure, because I feel like these songs I've written last year are some of the best stuff I've written, and I don't want it to fall on deaf ears and it just be like, oh, here's another song. You know what I mean? Like,
For sure.
I want it to be hopefully be, you know, another special part of this story.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks so much for coming along, and
thank you,
feel free to come on the show anytime if you ever want to come back.
Oh, mate,
You were
love
great.
it. I would love that.
All right, cheers. Bye.
Bye.